And now our next one, we got another one from Ohio. The last one we had was in Cincinnati. This one's a little further north in Dayton, Ohio. Again, I said I used to work for True Green up there, but I also used to be stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is also right outside of Dayton. So here we go. Let's hear Brad.
Hey, Alan, this is Brad from Dayton, Ohio. I have a mix of a fescue and bluegrass lawn. It's a little two-part thing here. Number one, I haven't really seen a whole lot that you said about getting rid of thistle. I am working on a lawn with my cousin, and she's trying to restore her lawn, and she's having problems with that up by her house. And the second part is we've been getting a lot of thunderstorms and stuff recently, so I put your little theory to the test, and my grass has darkened up quite a bit. So if you could answer my question about that, though, that'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome, Brad. So let me talk to you guys about the first thing Brad's talking about in a recent podcast, and I can link in the description below if you're on YouTube or whatever. But I talked about how lightning brings natural nitrogen. When lightning strikes in the air, it creates natural nitrogen that's brought down in rain, and it will green the lawn up when it hits the soil. And he's saying, hey, I tested that out. We got a thunderstorm, and I noticed that my lawn greened up right away. That's exactly right. So the rest of you, I encourage you to do that. Go back and watch that or listen to that piece of the podcast. But the next time you get a lightning storm, go out, like in the midst of the lightning storm, go out and look at your lawn, and it will be greener from that natural nitrogen. We call that free nitrogen in Florida, and we get tons of it. But the other thing that Brad asked about here was he's working with his cousin, and she's got a lot of thistle problems. Now, he's right. I don't talk a lot about thistle, but thistle is something I have in my lawn, and it's probably most of you are going to have either Canada thistle or bull thistle. There might be some other ones, but they're all thistle, and they're all really hard to kill. But I'm going to go ahead and give you now some tips on getting rid of thistle, because I have had a lot of experience with it. When I worked in Northwest Indiana, we had tons of thistle. That was mostly bull thistle up there, and we had tons of it. In fact, I would see it, some of it would get 4 or 5 feet tall. People would let it grow like in their shrub beds and stuff and get these giant pink flowers on it, and it would just be horrendous. So thistle can get really out of control, but in a lawn, it is controllable even though it's not easy. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, when it comes to thistle, is you want to figure out, can you eliminate where it's coming from? Now, you might have a lot of farm fields around you where thistle will grow and things like that and blow around and spread. Nothing you can do about that. However, I've also known that thistle seeds are put into wild bird seeds. So you said that the problem is up by the house. I would ask if there used to be, or if there is currently, a wild bird feeder up there, and possibly that the birds that are eating those thistle seeds are spreading them around or shadding them out. Either way, I believe that a lot of thistle is spread that way, because the thistle problems that I have in my lawn are underneath my palm trees where the birds nest. I don't have thistle anywhere else, and I believe that they're eating the seeds from somewhere, and then they are eliminating those seeds as they are up in those trees. They are falling into my lawn, and they are growing. So the first thing you want to do, don't eliminate the birds. I love birds. But if you do have wild bird feeder around there, eliminate that, because that might have some thistle seeds in it. So that's just a real quick way that you might be able to get a quick win if I'm right on my guess there. Now, the next thing is, don't try to pull them. And I know that you probably haven't done that, but when I have a story. I had been working at True Green for 2 weeks. Now, you have to understand, I grew up in Florida, so and we didn't have a lot of thistle here, at least that I ever remember, so I never came across one. And I remember I'd been working at True Green for 2 weeks, and I was out running estimates on a lawn, and I saw, well, I know now it was a thistle, and I didn't know what it was, and I wanted to understand what it was, so I reached down with my bare hand. My idea was I was going to pull it out, put it in a plastic bag, and take it back to the office and ask my boss, hey, what is this? I'm seeing a lot of these right now on the lawns. However, as soon as I grabbed that thistle, and let me tell you, I grabbed it hard because I wanted to get in and just take out the roots and everything, I learned my lesson very quickly as I yanked back a hand in pain. A thistle will destroy your hand if you go all in on it trying to pull it. So definitely do not do that. But you can control them through mowing. Now, Canada thistle, and I'm not sure about bull thistle, but Canada thistle has underground root system, and it spreads and it pushes up. So it's a tough one. But either way, this is still going to work no matter what kind of thistle you have. You're just going to have to be diligent with it. And the first thing you want to do is try to mow it out. My first choice against any weed is to try to mow it out, because weeds have to get sunlight for photosynthesis to feed their roots so they can spread. And most weeds require a larger leaf surface to fuel themselves. Grass is unique in that it only has to have these long, slender blades, and it has thousands of them to fuel itself. But weeds, being single plants for the most part, or in the case of Canada thistle, a long root system that's sending up single plants, it's got to send up those giant satellite dishes to suck up that sunlight. And so if you're constantly cutting it, it is having to spend all of its root energy regrowing those leaves, and eventually it's just going to burn out. It's going to run out of energy. So the first thing I want you to do is try to mow it out. Now the next thing is, after you mow, I do want you to spray a weed control, and you want to use 2,4-D in an amine formulation, A-M-I-N-E. It's just going to work a little bit better in the heat of the summer here. So if you can find 2,4-D amine, which you can online, it's cheap. You probably get like a 12% 2,4-D amine. And what you're going to do is mix that up according to the label, and you're going to spot spray the thistle after you cut them. Most weeds I want you to spray before a cut and not cut for a while, but with thistle, I want you to cut them off, because what's going to happen is there's still going to be a lot of leaf surface left. That's just the way that a thistle grows. They spread wide and they spread out. So even if you're cutting at 3 or 4 inches tall, there's going to be a lot of leaf surface left. But the other thing is that the very center stalk of the plant will be exposed because you'll cut it off, and that is a direct line down into the roots. So you're going to take that 2,4-D amine, and you're going to soak it down right into the middle of that. Now, don't go crazy with it, but you're going to give it a squirt right down the middle. And our idea is that we're going to hopefully get that to translocate itself down into the root. Now, it's not a foolproof thing, and it's going to take a few applications. And I also want you to coat the leaves that are left, but I really want you to work on getting it straight down in there. Just a nice squirt right in the middle of that cut-off thistle. So in conjunction with mowing and spot spraying that way, I think you'll be able to get rid of your thistle problem fairly easily. Now, if you can't get an amine formulation, you can get Speed Zone. Speed Zone will work very, very well. It's got 2,4-D in it. I think it's an ester formulation. It'll still work just fine, but if you can get the amine formulation, that's going to work a little bit better. So it's a conjunction of mowing and spot spraying will help you get rid of those thistle. Probably the best strategy that I know of. If you have a warm season turf and you're wanting to take on the same strategy, then you can use Celsius. Celsius will do okay on thistle, and you're going to do it the same way. Just know that Celsius is going to be pretty slow, but it's also the same thing. We're going to mow it out, and we're going to spray it out. We're going to spray right in the center of that cut-off stalk and try to get that product to translocate itself down through the root to kill it out from the bottom. If you keep on that and you keep working on it, eventually it'll burn out of there, and then hopefully maybe there's some other ways you can prevent it from coming back, and then that way you guys can hope for the best.